From WRAL News, this is Focal Point.
What is a dream home?
My dream home would be one level.
A living room with a fireplace.
Maybe in a loft on the inside.
Large space, but not that many rooms.
Place where my kids can grow up.
The porch that runs across the front.
2-bedroom, large bedrooms.
A nice sitting room.
Something simple to keep up with.
Comfortable.
But for many North Carolinians, there's the dream, and then there's the reality.
If you put your foot right here, you can feel the air coming through.
Yeah. Oh,
Hear that?
that doesn't sound
No,
good.
it didn't sound good.
This is all many can afford because this is unaffordable.
Incomes have been rising slower than housing costs.
Some say the state needs to spend a lot more money to help people find decent housing they can afford.
Well, $3 million is simply not going to meet the needs of the state of North Carolina.
And the state has many needs.
You look for money anywhere you can find it.
With a budget of $31 billion, why can't the state find money for what many say is the most basic of human necessities?
I think we just have not come to terms with what the problem is.
As the old saying goes, home is where the heart is. It's the base from which we conduct our lives. And collectively, our homes are the foundation of our communities. But housing advocates say finding a good, affordable home is a problem for 2 million North Carolinians. Our focal point tonight is on the economics behind the problem and an effort to find a solution. But we begin by meeting a few of those 2 million people. People who either can't afford a decent home, live in a decent home they can't afford, or have no home at all.
Jackson Hewitt, Candy speaking. My name is Mary Beth Grace, but people call me Mary Grace and people call me Candy.
To Candy, nothing's sweeter than her new job.
Gonna help me accomplish getting back on my feet financially.
She answers phones at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service in Raleigh.
I'll transfer to you to the Tarboro office. Is that okay? And they gave me 40 hours a week, and everyone in the company is just lovely. Real nice to me.
Thanks, Candy.
Thank you, Ms. Dumpson.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Mary Grace has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Beautiful day.
She worked as a probation officer in Ohio, but got laid off when budget cuts eliminated her job. On a friend's advice, she came to Raleigh looking for work.
I couldn't get a job anywhere in Raleigh. Nobody gave me a job. Right.
Mary Grace found part-time work, but she couldn't find an apartment she could afford.
$500 first rent, $500 to move in. That's $1,000. It's just outrageous.
Cheaper options came with another cost.
You cannot rest while there's drugs and alcohol and gunfights. Ooh.
At the end of the workday, Mary Grace has no home to go to, so she goes to a homeless shelter.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi.
Her 2 children are staying with family and friends.
I've never been away from my children. It's hard. It's real hard. What are you gonna do though?
Mary Grace spent 2 frightening nights on the streets before finding a bed at the shelter.
You see a woman on the street walking by herself at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, she is a target to get killed or raped.
She stepped into the shoes of homelessness. Now she writes about the walk.
This poem is very special to me. I wrote it myself. It's called The Homeless Walk. For a moment, if just for a minute, I need everyone to take off their shoes as you walk with me through the trilogy of what I call homeless abuse.
This sign is next to the shelter where Mary Grace lives. It advertises new luxury condos from $220,000 to $800,000. She'll settle for far less.
Just somewhere to call home, where I would want to show someone where I lived at, where someone wouldn't be scared if I say, okay, I live on this street. Oh, good, okay, come on over. Where someone is not scared or someone won't whisper behind my back, oh, she lives there. Where my children aren't ashamed of to come or ashamed to tell someone that they live. My feet are killing me now.
Mary Grace has saved $950 of the $1,000 she'll need to move into a decent apartment. But there are the utility deposits and grocery bills. She may be able to raise the money to move in, but she knows she'll need to make a lot more money to stay.
For you never will know or feel my pain unless you take the homeless walk.
Next, how the door to the American dream is locked by financial reality for many North Carolinians.
When you spend 10 years on an extremely fixed income, and you're trying to raise 2 children on approximately $700 a month, where do you go? Where do you go to live?
You're watching Focal Point from WRAL News. In-depth coverage you can count on.
Think of the state's housing situation as a staircase, with the homeless at the bottom and homeowners at the top. Most middle to low income people fall somewhere in between. Many don't have the means to move up, and others are in danger of stepping back. Even many of those at the top are a job loss or illness away from tumbling back down the housing staircase.
Catherine Fleet has a good job, but she goes home every day to a house she can barely afford.
Hello.
Get my keys.
It's difficult. It's
very difficult.
I mean, it's, we don't make enough money. That's the bottom line.
The Fleets bought this house when they moved to Raleigh a few years ago.
We bought it on my income level, not on her income level.
Bone cancer cost Jim his income. Surgery left him crippled and unable to work. He's a skilled craftsman, but can't pay the bills.
It's really taken the wind out of my sails not to be able to be productive.
To make matters worse, Catherine lost her job soon after Jim got home from the hospital.
Just when we thought we were going to get back on our feet again, then that happened. So I was out of work for 6 months.
Heavenly Father, thank you.
The bills piled up as Catherine looked for a job.
Amen.
She found one, but it pays less than the old one.
So right now we're trying to make it on my income, and it does make it extremely tight.
They're bringing in the money in, huh?
Nearly half of Catherine's income goes to the mortgage payment.
We don't want to lose the house.
There's little left for anything else.
We don't go anywhere, we don't do anything, we don't buy anything except food and gas and prescriptions, So it's just basic survival right now.
When it comes to housing, they see few options.
The jobs don't pay enough for the cost of what it costs to live here.
The Fleets say downsizing to a one-bedroom apartment wouldn't make much difference in their monthly expenses.
The other option we looked at is moving like to Tennessee or somewhere where the cost of living is a whole lot less. Housing is a whole lot less.
Jim is hoping to qualify for disability income, and Catherine is hoping for a raise.
Until that comes through or, that's determined, it's just one day at a time.
Okay, are we missing anyone?
I'm driving a school bus and I'm doing janitorial work. That's severely underemployed for someone with a college degree.
Allison Springer says she can't afford much in the way of housing.
I can't afford an apartment. I can't.
Allison says all she can afford is the $200 a month rent she pays for her trailer lot. This is how she describes the trailer.
Dark, dingy, enclosed, cluttered, small. Sufficient to have a roof over my head, but not really a home.
One of her 2 toilets doesn't flush, her stove doesn't work, her floors are wearing through, and the furnace is shot.
When it gets really cold out here, boy, you can see your breath in here. The windows frost on the inside sometimes.
Allison uses space heaters to keep her and her 12-year-old son warm when it's bitter cold. Allison also has a part-time job as a driver for a transportation company. It takes her inside Governor's Club, an exclusive gated community located right behind her trailer park.
And I just look at some of those houses in there, and I can't even begin to imagine. I can't.
So basically your next door neighbor has $1 million house.
Yeah, pretty much. Under here, this is all rotted out.
Allison says she might be able to find a better home in a more rural area, but not the better job she'd need to pay for it.
It all comes down to economics. It all comes down to simple economics.
Chris Bradley is a Chapel Hill firefighter.
I always want to do something exciting.
We should be on scene in about a minute.
Instead of the normal jobs that other people might have.
Thanks for coming out. All right.
And he gets to see how other people live in Chapel Hill's high-end suburbs.
And I wonder, what do they do? Work in RTP, lawyer, doctor? Because I'm not sure where you get that kind of money from.
It takes money to afford Chapel Hill's average home price of $350,000. More money than a fireman makes. That's why 73 of the town's 74 firemen live outside Chapel Hill. Chris's house is one county over in the town of Mebane. He wanted to live in the town he serves, but says it wasn't an option.
Not for my income. I can't have the same things that I could have living in Mebane if I lived in Chapel Hill, with the mortgage and with the expenses that goes along with the higher cost of living.
Housing advocates say as more people travel farther to find affordable housing, more traffic, pollution, and urban sprawl follows.
Hello? Hey, honey.
Chris says the same house he bought in Mebane would have cost at least $40,000 more in Chapel Hill, not to mention the higher taxes.
I'd be eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day and not enjoying the things that we like to do.
Chris says spending less on housing is helping secure his family's financial future.
We're planning for the children to go to college. We're planning for my retirement.
Next, what can the state do about a shortage of affordable housing when it has a shortage of money?
If you don't ask for it, you'll never get it.
You're watching Focal Point from WRAL News. In-depth coverage you can count on.
The economic downturn and job losses our state has seen over the past 5 years have increased the demand for affordable housing. Tens of thousands of people are on the waiting list for the federal government's Section 8 subsidized housing program in our state. It can take years to get that assistance. And with cuts planned in that program, it's likely the waiting list will keep growing. Housing advocates say it's time for the state to step in and do more.
Of what affordable housing means.
Chris Estes is the point man in a new campaign to increase North Carolina's housing trust fund
by $50 million.
The legislature puts $3 million a year into the fund.
$3 million a year based on the state, the size of North Carolina, is really a drop in the bucket.
Housing advocates hammer home the need in numbers. Someone earning the minimum wage of $5.15 an hour can afford a monthly rent of no more than $268. Someone getting a monthly Social Security check of $552 can afford no more than $166 a month in rent. But a typical one-bedroom apartment in North Carolina rents for $511 and a two-bedroom for $603. A minimum wage worker would have to put in 93 hours a week to rent the average two-bedroom apartment or get a job making at least $11.60 an hour. Housing advocates also say a family must earn at least $60,000 to afford the average North Carolina home, but the state's median family income is only about $38,000.
So that places a lot of stress financially, emotionally on households, and it sets communities back economically.
Experts say families shouldn't spend more than 30% of their income on housing, but say 800,000 North Carolina families are paying more than 50%.
They may be able to secure a place to live, but when you're spending 40 or 50% of your income, you really have no leeway if anything goes wrong, as well as you can't really move up economically.
In 1987, the legislature created the Housing Trust Fund. It's managed by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. It combines money from the fund with tax credits, grants, and low-interest loans to create a financing package that makes affordable housing affordable for developers.
For every dollar that's invested in the trust fund, $3 of additional money is leveraged from public or private investment to complete the development.
That money helps fill the gap between what a housing development costs and what a low-income tenant can pay. It also helps rehabilitate rundown housing, subsidizes mortgages for first-time home buyers, and helps finance Habitat for Humanity homes.
The Housing Finance Agency's done a tremendous job. We have a great delivery system.
But housing advocates say the system doesn't have enough money to deliver. Housing costs are rising. Wages are staying flat. Manufacturing jobs have been disappearing. Lower-paying jobs are taking their place.
And when you try to work out the math and what people can afford, it just doesn't match up in any county in North Carolina.
Many North Carolinians pay too much for housing. Some live in housing that is unhealthy and unsafe. Others opt for mobile homes, which can lose value so fast that owners can end up owing more on one than it's worth.
It's not a wealth-producing product. It's similar to buying a car.
North Carolina ranks third in the nation in the total number of mobile homes and the percentage of all housing units that are mobile homes.
We know that housing needs are getting worse, and we know that there are ways to address this issue.
Senate will come to order.
Housing advocates want to address it by asking the legislature to increase the Housing Trust Fund from $3 million to $50 million a year.
The senator has the floor.
Senate Bill 33.
Senator Tony Rand is on their side, but says it's a tough sell in tight times.
It would require a truly significant outpouring of support that I'm not sure that we can put together, but perhaps we can get $20 million.
With the state facing another $1 billion shortfall, even that will be a challenge.
You know, you sweep out all the corners, you get behind the pillars on the sofa, you look for money anywhere you can find it.
My colleague from Wake,
Representative Debra Ross is leading the effort in the House. She's optimistic the money can be found.
Other states fund it at the $50 million level and even higher and have extremely successful programs.
Some of those states fund it with real estate taxes and fees, something the North Carolina Association of Realtors and the Home Builders Association would fight.
Those sorts of land transfer taxes and impact fees disproportionately affect low and middle income housing.
Housing advocates say it's not their job to figure out where the money will come from. They just want lawmakers to know that $50 million buys a big bang. Homes for 6,000 North Carolina families, $200 million of additional investment in affordable housing, 3,000 new construction jobs, and an additional $30 million in state and local tax revenue.
It does save the state money in the long run, and it does produce a higher quality of life for people who live here.
If lawmakers want to see what affordable housing looks like these days, they need only travel a few blocks to Raleigh's Capitol Park. It used to be Halifax Court, a run-down, crime-ridden housing project.
When people see that, they can't believe that that's affordable housing. It's very attractive. It's a great development of a community.
Housing advocates say state money is needed to help make such projects happen because in the free market, if people can't pay much, they don't get much.
And we'll see more and more substandard housing being allowed to decline because there's a population that can't afford anything over that.
Advocates say the Housing Trust Fund helps keep that population from having to settle for slums and keeps communities from having to put up with the problems that slums bring.
I don't think you can put a dollar cost on what it's worth to the state to address that. I think in human terms, it's worth an awful lot.
Next, the happiness those housing dollars can buy in human terms.
Feels good. Feels real good.
You're watching Focal Point from WRAL News. In-depth coverage you can count on.
To learn more about the issue covered in this episode of Focal Point, visit WRAL.com and click on News.
Home ownership is the American dream. It's how most Americans build their wealth. But it's a dream that's out of reach for many North Carolinians. Their income may not be high enough or their credit good enough. The state's Housing Trust Fund can help people overcome those barriers and take that next step toward the dream. Housing advocates say it offers a hand up, not a hand out.
Did you ever write a note?
Shanita Millsaps is a police officer in Salisbury.
What's the last one? You?
She's also a single mom raising 4 children. Finding an apartment big enough and cheap enough to meet her needs was tough.
It's hard. It's still hard, affordable, and somewhere that you don't have to worry about somebody coming in and trying to steal your things.
Safer neighborhoods were too expensive, and buying a home was out of the question.
With my credit and then with the money that I was making and everything, I just didn't have the money to put down. I didn't have the means to get a house.
But the city Millsaps served her back through the Salisbury Community Development Corporation. It helps break down the financial barriers for first-time home buyers.
Anyone can get a home in our program. It's just if they're willing to work hard enough to do it. You all have done such a good job on your own.
Through counseling and classes, participants learn how to clean up their credit and manage their money.
It's always good to have that little nest egg. And once they've saved $1,000, paid off all of their delinquent credit, and taken all of our classes, then we build them a home.
Money from the Housing Trust Fund helps make the homes affordable. It cuts the initial cost by 20% through a second mortgage that's deferred for 30 years.
So most of the house payments run between $550 and $600, including taxes and insurance. We wanted to come and see your house because it looks so good.
The down payments are only $750. All the closing costs are rolled into that second deferred mortgage covered by the Housing Trust Fund.
We really could not provide the quality of houses that we're providing without that help.
Finish your homework?
The houses have features like vaulted ceilings and walk-in closets.
They have things that you just don't think of in affordable houses.
They come with kitchen appliances, washer and dryer, even a computer.
Okay.
But perhaps the most important amenity that comes with this home is pride.
To be able to say, I bought a home and I have 4 children, it makes me feel real good.
Looking good.
Nikki and Jeff Brown are following in Shanita's footsteps. Their new home will be finished in a few weeks.
There'll be a countertop right there, a little bar.
They've been renting a 2-bedroom trailer, cramped quarters for their growing family.
Getting a down payment together is hard to get that lump sum of money all at one time.
This is going to be the honeymoon suite.
The down payment assistance made their first home possible.
I mean, it's just a wonderful feeling to, know that it's going to be complete before long, and we'll be no longer renters, be homeowners.
That is the American dream. For many North Carolinians, the economic realities may make it seem impossible to achieve, but their dream remains.
TV, nice TV, dining room.
Something not really big, but not really small either.
We want something simple. Yes, a dream house would be a paid-for house.
Right now, this is a dream home.
This home here that I have, my house, is a dream home.
Just somewhere to call home and be respected, where I can hold my head up high and say, this is my home, this is what I've worked for.